Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our admin who received this confession. So the confession, it reads like this. Hello, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? My name is Joseph, not my real name, and I do come from a very small village in Mwanza, Tanzania. So I used to be just like any other man, struggling to make a living, hoping for a better future. And the problem with me was that I got to be an alcoholic from a very young age, and I was always looking for an opportunity to make a quick buck. Any money that I would make, I would quickly rush and I would go and I would buy some alcohol. That was all that I was living for. Even though I was highly intelligent in school, and even my mom, she used to say that maybe there is someone who bewitched my son. Sometimes she will be told that his son would have been beaten up at the local drinking place, and then when she would come, she will start to cry, seeing me looking as a drunkard like that. Yet I used to be very intelligent in school, but I still had hopes for a better future. Life in the village was really hard, and as for opportunities, they were scarce. Growing up, my family barely had enough to eat. We relied on fishing and small-scale farming, but even that was never enough to put food on the table. Some days when I would go out so that I can catch some fish, I would keep on asking myself a lot of questions, because I had this other uncle of mine who had been attacked by a crocodile. Unfortunately, even though people tried to save him, his friends that were with him when they went out fishing, but that crocodile dragged him to the bottom of the river. I liked my uncle a lot, and I was named after him. And from there on, I hated the life of poverty. I resented it. As I got older, the weight of providing for my own family grew heavier. My wife, whom I'll call Aisha, not her real name, we had 2 children, and I knew that I could not let them grow up the same way that I had done, hungry, desperate, without a future. So I then started looking for ways out, for opportunities that could change my fate. And that was when I heard that there was someone who could assist me. We had gone out on a drinking spree with one of my friends. When we were sitting down, we were having a lot of discussions about the economy and if we could make money, if we could be rich one day. That was when I heard that there was another man, and this man, he was quite an old man. And we heard that he was someone that was mysterious, who was living almost on the outskirts of our village. And people were saying that he was in the area just for a temporary period. But he was not just a traditional healer. One man said, he said that this man, he was dabbling in something that was darker, like your occultic rituals that can bring you wealth and money. But these were not just your average rituals. As for us, the reason as to why he had came to our village, he was looking for human body parts. Because in order for this man to assist you, we were told that it required a lot of money. But he was looking for some guys whom he could rely on so that he can get these human body parts. This required human sacrifices, specifically people with what the condition which we call albinism. You see, here there are deep-rooted suspicions about the powers of albino body parts. Some believe that they bring good luck, prosperity, and you can even become invincible, especially when they are used in rituals by witch doctors. Growing up, we had heard such stories about people who would talk about how a successful businessman, maybe there in Dar es Salaam, in Arusha, got rich overnight, and how it was all because of ritual that involved albino body parts. But those stories, to me, I thought that they were just fake. Maybe myth, something that had happened to someone far away. I never thought that this was going to come to our village, and I never imagined that someone can be rich simply because you used the parts of an albino. Well, here I was. At first, I did not believe the man that I was speaking with, but the more that we talked, the more real it became. He told me about how the old man was performing a ritual, and he had gone to that old man because he also wanted money. But the old man then told him the price that he was supposed to pay, which was a lot. Since he could not pay the price, that was when her son was told by that witch doctor if he could find someone that had this condition of him being an albino, then he could assist him with more rituals. I had always known that it was dangerous for albinos in our part of the world since they were being hunted for their body parts, but I never thought that I'll become part of that nightmare. For days, I wrestled with my conscience. I knew that it was wrong, and I knew that it was evil, but the promise of wealth is always too tempting. Every time that I would look at my children, me and my wife were always fighting. And I married a very beautiful woman, so she would say that, oh, I wish that I had gotten married to a man that is not an alcoholic, a drunkard. I wish that I had married a man who is resourceful, not this. So this made me to feel like I had a heavy burden. I felt as if I was losing my family. I wanted to keep my beautiful wife. I wanted to give them a better life, a future free from the kind of hardship that I grew up under. In the end, my desperation won. I started searching, we searched, and we knew this other boy. I'll call him Emmanuel. He was living in a nearby village. He had this condition, but he was around about 10 years. He was an innocent child who had done nothing wrong, except of being born with a different skin. So I tried to push the guilt aside. I convinced myself that this was just the way that the world works, and sacrifices had to be made so that people can be successful. I then approached that man who was said to be the witch doctor. When I saw him, I saw that this man, he was very fearful. When I looked at that man, I became so fearful, even though I had shame in my heart. The house where he was staying at, his house was a small, run-down shack at the edge of the forest, surrounded by strange objects. You could see bones, dried herbs, and some items that I could not even recognize. This old man welcomed me and my partner, and as if they had spoken a lot, they welcomed each other with a knowing smile. And then he spoke with her son, and he was like, "You are ready, are you not?" And my friend nodded, and I was just looking. I could not even speak. My son was the one who was given the instructions, the details, and they were truly horrifying. The ritual would take place under the cover of the night, deep in the forest, where no one would hear the boy screaming. I felt sick, but the promise of wealth, it was just too much for me. It took weeks of planning. We had to be careful not to raise suspicion in the village. Emmanuel's family was protective of him, knowing the dangers that he faced, but eventually we found the moment. We lured him away with the help of one of his relatives that we were supposed to give the money. Since he trusted the relative lured him to the place where we were waiting. The night of the ritual is something that I can never forget. We took the boy to the forest to a spot marked by strange symbols. And then the old man was already waiting there, the witch doctor. His face was painted with mixture of something like mud and blood. And then this boy, who was innocent, did not even realize what was happening. He was fed some herbs, and they made him to drink a lot of alcohol. He was drunk at the time of his death. That was when that witch doctor and her son, they were the ones that had the nerves to do the deed. They held down the boy. I clearly heard this boy screaming the moment that the knife touched his neck, but they did not stop. That old man kept on cutting and cutting and cutting until the knife was deep into his throat. When it was over, there was silence. And then that witch doctor said to me and her son, "You will have everything that you desire." At first, I was really happy. We then got arrested. After we had been arrested, As for my wife, she knew what her husband had done. And as for that witch doctor, he just disappeared. But my wife knew where to find him. I gave my wife the directions and the money. My wife then went there. And then the old man did some rituals for me so that I will never serve my full sentence. Her son is still rotting in prison up until this day. And I came out of prison out of good behavior. To my joy, I saw my wife waiting for me. She was driving a very beautiful car. And then she went with me to the place where we are staying. We have wealth, the wealth that I once craved for. But that young man, when he was screaming when we were in the forest, that is what gives me a lot of guilt in my heart. I know that one day I am going to die, and the moment that I am going to die, his spirit will be waiting for me. But at least, as for now, me and my wife, we have a good life. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sister. She received this message that was sent to us by our brother. Strange things indeed they do happen in this world.